Hi, I want to talk about perception today and about the power of our story, but mostly about our perception of our story. For most of my life, as I've shared many times in this YouTube channel, for most of my life, my story, when I thought of my story, when I thought of my past, when I thought of my childhood and my life, I'm not saying I was always conscious of this, but it made me feel bad. It made me feel like a victim with all of the things that come along with that, right? Um, that I was powerless and that men are all assholes and a whole slew of beliefs that contributed to me really fucking up my life, especially my love life, but every aspect of your life. And so I was actually just watching a Ted Lasso, and they played BJ Thomas, raindrops keep falling on my head. It was a big hit in the 70s, and it reminded me of happy parts of my childhood. And I just got to thinking that those of us who do solo shows, or who write our memoirs, or who navigate and mine our stories, our biography, for for the juice of life, right? To find the answers, like Peter Gabriel says, digging in the dirt to see where I got hurt. Oftentimes, a lot of times, we get, or those of us who've had decades of therapy, me, and maybe you can get stuck in this loop of what went wrong, what happened to me, who the villains are, who the bad guys, what my dad did, what my mom didn't do, what my, all the things. I was poor, or I was, whatever it is, whatever that sad victim story is, we can get stuck in the grip of it and the identity of it, right? And I remember one time I had a neuro linguistic programming, it's called NLP session. And she took me through all these different scenes and scenarios from my past, and especially scenes that were really traumatic, small t and big T. And in every scenario, she would ask at the end of the session, what were the learnings from this? And it was surprising to me how many positive, empowering things I learned from the adversity and the so-called problems of my childhood. I've decided to just go full-blown woo-woo my channel here, because why not? You know, it's my Susie Porter channel. I can do and say whatever I want, and I just don't want to be phony or fake or anything that I'm not. And so I'm going to share this with you that I've shared with, like, nobody. But here goes. Whoever watches this, okay, maybe I've shared it with like a couple people in my inner circle. So one time I had a vision. Well, I've had two visions in my life. One was with God and the other one was with Jesus. And the one I had with Jesus was in my early 30s, when I was doing really intense healing work, specifically on the sexual abuse. I remember I was in a writing class and we were supposed to write about our family, and I couldn't. I picked up the pen and I cried for a week. I did nothing that week. So it was really heavy, right? That feeling of uh, just pain, and I even thought that God hated me. It was just, I was really in the thick of the pain of the childhood wound, just like just I was in it. And it was in the middle of this time that I had a vision. And it wasn't anything freaky. I was just in my apartment by myself, and I don't know if I was meditating or what, but in my vision, I was wide awake, and Jesus came to me and he took me by the hand and we went for a walk. And he said, you're not a victim, you're a volunteer. And you chose your parents. Now, skip back decades before, when I picked up some Hindu book that said, we choose our parents. And I was like, fuck you. And I threw the book. I remember I was in a little bookstore and I threw the book in the bin and I was like, this is bullshit. And I got really angry. But, decades of therapy and all the inner spiritual work I was doing, plus it was Jesus saying this, not some book. I just was ripe and ready to receive that message that I chose my parents. I would never tell anyone else. I would never tell you or anyone that you have to believe that, because I did not believe that. I do believe it now, but it's because I was just ready to accept that belief. And so when he said to me, "You're not a victim, you're a volunteer," the Course in Miracles says a miracle is a shift in perception. So that's a huge shift from victim to volunteer. That is a 360, right? Volunteer implies free will, choice. Uh, I volunteer. I decide to 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 live this life. And furthermore, he said, "You chose your parents," and he went on to tell me more specific reasons about why. And so I do believe in free will, although it's tricky, right? It's something that philosophers have been arguing about since the beginning of time, predestination or free will. It's very tricky because we have choice, but we're within all these systems that are controlling us unconsciously. That's a whole nother video that I'm not smart enough to make about the difference if we do have free will or if we're predetermined. But if we do have uh, an amount of free will, it just made sense to me that that free will would begin before we're born. If you believe in past lives, which I do, which I didn't when I was a fundamentalist Christian, but I do now, because why not, right? So if I have free will in this lifetime, then why wouldn't I have had free will before I came into this lifetime? So I worked it out and it made sense to me. So I decided to agree with what Jesus told me. And I thought, well, yeah, it feels better to be a volunteer than a victim anyway. So I volunteered for this. Now, getting this information didn't make everything zippity doo, happy, skippy happy. I still had years of shit to go through, but it was a lifeline to a feeling of empowerment. And so, jumping ahead, 30 years ahead now, when I had this session with the NLP practitioner, she would say, "What were your learnings? What were your learnings?" So, from any kid who went through childhood, any kind of abuse, what you learn from that is how to survive, how to adapt, how to protect your parents, yourself, your siblings, whatever you have to do. You learn a lot. And again, this is a very complex topic that I can't cover in its entirety, of course not. But I just want to present to you because one of my specialties is memoir writing. And, I wrote a one woman show, and I know the power and the magic and the freedom of telling your story. And furthermore, once you have the courage and the energy to tell your story, then the real miracle happens when you shift your perception of the story. So what might have started out as a "woe is me, life sucks, whatever" story, if you shift it to "I volunteered for this, I survived this, I became very strong and passionate, I became a great mother, I became a great lover of animals, and I became a great whatever because of the adversity of my childhood." I mean, think of the some of the greatest people in the world had some the worst childhoods, right? So it seems to be a theme. It doesn't seem like a very cheerful, happy theme, but there does seem to be a theme that some people who have gone through great adversity go within and find inner peace and wisdom and power and then turn their story around. So I just wanted to suggest that to you. And I also wanted to suggest to you, as you're remembering your childhood or your past or your life, try to remember those songs and try to remember little glimpses of happiness and joy, even if your family was a mess. I mean, as dysfunctional as can be, even in those families where I guess I just want to suggest to you, look for the joy, look for the love, look for the evidence of love. And for those parts that are just so heavy and so painful, look for the strength within yourself. Look for the deeper aspect of you that was alive before you were born, who might have maybe chosen this lifetime. Even if you get just this one idea from this video, imagine that you chose this life and agreed before you incarnated into this role that you would have the parents you had, live the life you live, and experience everything that you're experiencing for the growth of your soul, for your highest good. I know this is a leap for a lot of us, right? But what if you let go of all your judgment, let go of any and all beliefs that are hurting you or making you feel angry or like a victim? What if you were willing, like I always say, just a little bit, just a tiny bit of willingness to let go of everything you thought you knew about your life and the meaning of your life and your own identity? And think just for a minute that you volunteered for this life, that there are aspects of your story that are miraculous and that have contributed to make you the person who your soul wanted you to be. What if that was true? What if there is a deep knowing within you that wanted something greater? So you chose the whatever the circumstance or the relationships were in your childhood. I took a writing class with Martha Beck once called Write into Light. And the first two homework assignments were a challenge. The first one was I'm sorry, Martha, if I paraphrase, but it was something like, my life was perfect because, boom, like you're supposed to write like 1,000 words. Well, that's hard if you have a victim mentality. My life wasn't perfect. And then the second one was to take something, some trauma or some event that happened that you thought was wrong or painful, and say, this event happened at the perfect time because. Now, that was really, really, really a challenge for me to write. It was perfect that I got molested when I was 7 years old because, but I got some help from a very wise woman friend, and she did help me to see um, there's always a silver lining. As corny as that sounds, Pollyanna was a enlightened master genius, right? The glad game. So mine your life, mine your childhood. Get curious. Let go of your judgments. Let go of all your well formulated opinions about your life and why it sucked and why this and that. Those beliefs are going to hurt you forever. Those beliefs will not hurt the person who hurt you when you were a little kid. They will hurt you for the rest of your life. And just like a pair of glasses, you will see reality through the lens of that painful narrative. So look at your life through a different lens, through the lens of an empowered volunteer, through the lens of an emerging soul that is infinite. We don't just live 50, 60, 100 years. We're really lucky. We live forever. That's what I believe. And if that's true, then this life is just like a second. Feels like forever, doesn't it? So that's what I have for you today. My message of mine your childhood for the tenderness, for the moments of love, for the power within you, for the hero, for lack of a better word, the hero within you, the volunteer of you who decided to show up in this lifetime and to live through this crazy time where the entire planet is having a shift in consciousness. You are here now for this. And isn't that incredible? When we get to share it together. Take good care of your mind, your thoughts, your heart, your emotions, and your body. God bless you today and every day. Love you. Mwah.